All right. Well, welcome back to Module 3. Strap in, get a coffee, or get a coffee and then strap in. Really should be the way to do it. And as this module is a big one, I've broken up into parts A, B, and C. As I said, it is quite a large module to get through, so we'll be doing it in sections. So welcome to Network Security Concepts, and in this video we'll be looking at current state of cybersecurity, what threat actors are, and basic types of malware. So again, just a bit of a legal thing here. This is conducted in a sandbox. All of our labs are done in isolation to any other network and are only for educational purposes, and any unauthorized access to any data, computer or network will come with punishment under the legal system. Alright, so it is illegal to access any type of electronic device without permission. So be aware of that, and you will face legal consequences if you're doing things without permission. So the first section is our current state of cybersecurity. So in this one we'll start off with going through some terms used throughout the course. Assets are anything that the organisation puts a value on. This includes its people, equipment, resources and information/data. Vulnerabilities are weaknesses within the system or its design that could be exploited. A threat is a potential danger to any of the assets. An exploit is the mechanism used to take advantage of that vulnerability. Mitigation is what we do to reduce the risk of that occurring. So this is generally done via multiple different techniques used in conjunction to reduce the risk, so that the likelihood of an exploit being used successfully is greatly reduced. Risk is the likelihood of a threat to exploit a vulnerability within an asset from actually having a negative impact on the organisation. Now, if you've done basic occupational health and safety and that, you will have done a risk matrix, and we use a similar method to evaluate security risks within an enterprise network, where we list potential threats against the likelihood of it happening, and we get the level of risk to the organisation. Vectors are where the attack is likely to come from. Now, in simple terms, we have internal and external threats. Now, most people are shocked to learn that the greatest amount of threat is internal, as most systems are compromised internally. They come from disgruntled employees, that sort of thing, rather than outside, because most network administrators are very aware of an external threat from occurring and traditionally have been well prepared to protect against that type of threat. What occurs intentionally or unintentionally with data loss is we get a damage to our reputation, so the brand suffers. We can lose competitiveness against our competition. We will lose customers because they'll not trust us with their information. Excuse me. We will have a loss of revenue from that. We could actually be exposed to legal action, especially if we've allowed personal information to be compromised, giving our clients a potential to take legal action against the firm. And then there's the significant cost and effort to go through and notify everybody that they may have been affected by the loss of data, and the recovery process from the breach. Okay, so what we're going to look at is data loss prevention controls to be implemented on strategic, operational, and tactical levels to counteract the potential loss. So where can this data loss occur? It can go via email social networks. So it can be intercepted and revealed. Unencrypted data, so devices storing information that is not encrypted, can easily be retrieved if accessed. Cloud storage can be accessed and compromised due to weak security settings. That's within the service provider and possibly the communication between the organization and your service provider. Okay, so there's lots of pluses and minuses to using cloud services that you need to take into account. Removable media, so our USB drives, I mean, they're getting smaller and smaller all the time and getting larger in capacity. So it's very easy for a person to insert a USB stick. You don't need to actually have access to the computer. A lot of modern keyboards will have USB ports on them. So just be aware that it's a potential for losing data. Hard copy, so when people print out confidential information, make sure it is filed in an appropriate manner for when it's not in use, and when it's no longer required, make sure it is disposed of in the appropriate manner, i.e. shredding with fine shredders. Next is access control. So this is where our policies on password strength, how frequent we need to update our passwords come into play. Just a word of warning, the more complex the password and the combined with the high frequency of forcing people to change them results in people writing them down, which kind of counteracts the purpose of having passwords in the first place. Threat actors, so our hackers. Okay, so we've got the white and black hats and the greys. So go back to the old black and white Western movies. All the good guys, you wore the white hats, baddies wore the black hats. So you now know what two of the groups are. So our white hats are what we call ethical hackers, and they're the ones that are employed to go around doing penetration testing, looking for exploits, and giving reports to the organisation on what they've found to be vulnerable, and 9 times out of 10 they recommend how to fix those vulnerabilities. On the opposite end is our black hats. These are the criminals that want to gain information and resources for their own profit, and they're fully there to make your day a very bad one indeed. Our grey hackers are the people that are doing things for their own purposes, but generally they will disclose the vulnerabilities they find to the organisation. Now, some of them will break it, then post up to the organisation, hey, you're vulnerable, I could do all this, you need to fix it. And others will go, hey, look, I did this, give me money and I'll tell you how I did it. So there's a wide range of people that fall under the grey hat. So these are not people that have permissions to look for vulnerabilities, but they're doing so. So effectively, they are doing something illegally, but may have good intentions. Over the years, the tools that we use for networks as an admin have become more powerful, and these tools and scripts can be used by people doing the wrong thing. All right, most of these tools are available for free. There's paid versions, but there's plenty of free ones out there as well. So people that are inexperienced and using the scripts and tools are known colloquially as script kiddies. So they're using the scripts, they don't really have any knowledge, but they're using the available tools. Vulnerability broker is a polite way of the grey hackers that want a financial return for giving over the results after the fact. Hacktivists are, again, people doing the wrong thing, but in their mind they've got the best of intentions. Then we come into our black hats. So this is our cyber criminals, and they can be single people or organised crime. And then you come into where the big power brokers are, and that's the state-sponsored hackers. Now, these are both white and black. They're white because they're authorised by their government, and black because they're attacking a system they're not authorised to be in. So depending on your point of view and what they're doing, they fall into those two categories quite easily. Cyber criminals. Well, we kind of get to know that these are there to steal money or information that they can sell. So they generate billions of dollars of loss for enterprises around the world each year. And they have their own little community which they trade and sell tools, exploits, information. So it's all available on the internet if you know where to go. And these people are extremely paranoid. A colleague of mine that was developing cybersecurity courses, he had 2 internet connections to his home. One he would do cyber work on with a dedicated machine that wasn't connected to anything else in his house, and then his personal network for the family to use, which never came in contact with the other, because they quickly broke through his systems whenever he was creating some activities to be done. So just be aware, doesn't matter how smart you are, there's generally somebody out there that's smarter. Alright, so take that into account. Hacktivists, well known, anonymous, everybody basically knows them. They tend to have a cause and think they're doing what they're doing with justified means, but you know. Next, we have state-sponsored. So these are the ones that are working for their government, and they will be both doing white and black hat activities. So they'll be responsible for protecting the government networks, finding vulnerabilities and exploits, and mitigation techniques for them. And they'll also be responsible for launching attacks against other organizations. Threat actor tools. So here I'll take a little break from my droning voice and make it so that our volume is a little higher, and we'll watch a 6-minute video.
Let's do it. We're jumping into threat actor tools, and we kick it off with a graph. Yes, this graph is a quick history lesson. What it comes down to is back in the day, the sophistication of our attack tools, the power, the coolness behind them all was low. Which means in order to successfully perform an attack, you would have a good amount of technical knowledge. But nowadays, as our tools become much more powerful and sophisticated and much more automated, the sophistication of the tools is high. And the technical knowledge that the users need in order to perform attacks will be low. So those threat actors, they need less knowledge nowadays to do the same amount of power, if not more, attacks against targets. So some of the tools that we can talk about, they're called penetration testing tools. We'll start here with password crackers. And the password cracker is all about being able to perform password recovery for somebody, whether that person wants their password recovered or not. With wireless hacking tools, we can talk about surveying wireless networks and then looking for vulnerabilities in order to take advantage of it. Now, for example, one of the tools would be Numbware. I loaded up on my machine, scanned all of the access points around me. This is a live scan running right now since the numbers are changing. What I can take a look at here is every single wireless network nearby that I can detect, and I can see the authentication mechanism that has been chosen by that wireless network, whether it's open, and I can jump on, or WPA2 Enterprise, or WPA2 Personal. Maybe there'd be a weapon here. I can even see the encryption that has been chosen, and also manufacturer of the wireless device. And by using this information, I could then try to look for vulnerabilities to crack through that network. As we continue on, we can talk about network scanning and hacking tools, and this allows us to probe network devices and more, and even look for open sessions and TCP and UDP sockets and port numbers to jump on. We'll cover more of that with Nessus later on. With packet crafting, we can look at custom building a packet to make our way through a firewall that's trying to block us from gaining access to another network. With packet sniffers, we shove a Wireshark right into here. We can try to capture and analyze packets, and we can even save that capture for later. With rootkit detectors, as a threat actor, we want to try to break around this and not be detected. But this is a directory and file integrity check. It looks for things that have been maliciously modified and also can be maliciously active. We have fuzzers that are going to be submitting invalid, unexpected, or just random data. And the idea here is to try to get a system to crash and break through a vulnerability. We have forensics tools which can be used to recover data. They can be used to pull back files that have been deleted, whether somebody wants them pulled back or not. You have debuggers to try to reverse engineer our binary files and when writing exploits. Pretty much a lot of the computer science behind the scenes. We can have our hacking operating systems, which include things like Backtrack and Kali. They're specially designed OSs preloaded with penetration testing tools. We have our encryption tools, which can encrypt data and make it ciphertext so it can't be read, whether the user wants their data encrypted or not, and the threat actor decides to give the key to decrypt it or not. We have vulnerability exploitation tools, which are awesome. These are tools that can identify whether a remote host is actually vulnerable to an attack. And a good example of this thing would be, which is Nessus. And I just loaded up on my machine. I scanned my network, and we can see all these devices getting little reports back. One of them has red, and it happens to be my firewall. So if I click on my firewall, and then I can click on that red critical issue, what I'll find here is the Unix operating system on my edge firewall, my network, no longer supported, which means If there's any new security patches out there for issues, I'm not getting it. Solution is to upgrade to a version of Unix OS that's supported. We'll do that. Moving on. What are these attack types that threat actors will take against it? Well, eavesdropping attack. Using a tool like Wireshark, a threat actor would be able to capture network traffic and listen to it. They can even save the capture and open it at a later time to study it. With data modification, we take it one step further. It's not just listening and capturing data, but it literally is capturing data and altering it without the sender or receiver knowing. With IP address spoofing, a threat actor can pretend to be whoever they want to be. They can choose the source IP address on their message and send this message out across the network. Password-based attacks, anybody can do this. There are tons of tools out there. But if a threat actor can discover a valid user account, then they can have the same rights as a real user, and they can then try to escalate their privileges. Now, one example of a password-based attack would be having password and username lists and using these lists with a tool. For example, there's a tool known as THC Hydra, and you could take a username list and a password list, and you combine them together, and you knock on a front door, let's say 150,000 times. Well, in this case, I have a text file that has 10 million passwords in it, and a text file with 10 million usernames in it. I can have a tool like THC Hydra grab both files, target a specific application or a network device, and literally go to town, cycling through 10 million possibilities times 10 million possibilities to get my gist, and try to break through with a valid username and password. Denial of service. This is where you are literally preventing legitimate use of a network service or server. And there are tons of tools for this. One of them that I have on my machine, for example, is low orbit ion cannon. Sophistication of the tool versus technical knowledge. Back to that conversation. With this tool, you select your target. You lock on, you charge your laser, and you go. And the whole idea is this tool will be reporting statistics down below at the bottom, and you're trying to overwhelm the target, so thus the target is not providing network and client services to standard users. Man-in-the-middle attack. We're talking about having that threat actor that puts themselves right between the source and destination, and they're actively monitoring, capturing, and trying to control the communication without the sender and receiver knowing. With compromised key, we've got where an attacker can use a compromised key, which is a legitimate key that people don't know has been compromised, in order to gain access to communication or to network services. And lastly, with a sniffer attack, which is very similar back to Wireshark, a threat actor can use an application or even a physical device to read, monitor, and capture network data that's being exchanged real time, and they can literally grab and see those messages.
All right. So that was the video of this next little bit. So basically, you saw from there that there's many tools and ways of attacking a system. And he highlighted the fact that in today's world where we've automated so many systems, created so many tools to make it easier for us to work, we've also made it so that the people attacking us do not have to have a high level of technical knowledge, because they can just use these tools to do the work for them. So basically these slides are basically going through that video presentation. So I'm not going to go through them, just be aware that they're there. Have a good read at your own time. Pause the video, go through the words yourself. I don't think I need to repeat the video itself. So basically we go through all the tools again, but we actually give you more examples within the slideshow of the different types of tools, what they're doing, than what the video did. The video was a very quick overview of the tools. So again, pause the video, have a read, and I won't bore you with repeating the things that were said basically in the video. Now, as you can see, we go through a lot more different information in that we'll expand on what the video did. Malware. So malware is the general term used to incorporate all the different types of attacks. So this is anything that can be installed to help exploit the system. So viruses, worms, trojans, all of these types of things are under the general heading of malware. So what's the difference between viruses and Trojan horses? Well, viruses can alter, corrupt and delete files, erase files. They can corrupt your boot sector, causing you to have booting issues, corrupt application. They can send information to third parties. They can access your accounts, send emails. And one of the things we used to do early on to detect whether our email accounts were compromised is we used to actually put our own email addresses in our contacts. So if we got an email to ourselves, we knew that our system had been compromised. It's probably still a good idea. Lastly, they can actually still be summoned and lay dormant until they're called upon by the actor itself. Now, viruses, the main defining point here is they require human action to propagate. So they won't do any of this, generally speaking, by themselves. Okay, so they'll piggyback in on legitimate traffic such as emails and things like that. And then they'll not be able to do anything until we activate them. They're not self-replicating, they're not any of that. So most modern viruses are derived to do a specific purpose. So we have the boot sectors that attack file partition tables, file systems, and our boot up area. Firmware will attack devices. Firmware, which is basically the device's operating systems. We have macro viruses that take advantage of the automated macro services within Microsoft Office programs. We have executables that have been compromised, so they'll insert and overwrite legitimate exe files, and every time that program's activated, it propagates whatever the virus is designed to do. And then we have the basic script virus, which will attack and launch itself whenever scripts are run within the system. Whereas Trojan horses, well, these are a little different to our virus. These ones do not need human action to propagate themselves. These are generally hidden as legitimate applications. Free online games are normally available with compromised editions of the program. So you'll have somebody write a program and then you'll go in and get it for free. There's the old saying, nothing's really ever free, everything has a cost. The cost of that free program is the fact that it includes a Trojan horse, which may do the following: provide remote access. It may send data out to a third party. It may corrupt or delete your files. It can turn your device into a proxy where that device now acts for the threat actor. It can send files to a service or other devices. It can disable your antivirus software and firewalls. It can launch denial of service attacks, so you become a slave to their larger activities. It can log every keystroke, so everything that you type in will be logged and sent out. So they can gain access to your passwords, usernames, credit card information, you name it. Whatever you type, they gain access to. Adware was a major pain in the butt going back a couple of decades. Used to constantly pop up new windows in your browsers. It was a major pain in the pursuit. The pop-ups would be occurring much faster than you could click to close them, and it took a while to clear your system of these things. Next is the ransomware, which we've all heard of, where people will encrypt your drive and demand you pay to get the decryption key. Rootkit, this is where they attack the root system of the operating system, which they can do various things with. They can, if they get into the root, this is the main access point that they're all after, which means they can provide themselves with a back door to everything within your system, and you need specialist rootkit removal tools or totally scrub the system and rebuild it. So they're very hard to get rid of without the correct tools. Spyware is like Adware, but its purpose is to gather information and send it out to the third party without your consent. Worms are the self-replicating active application, and they'll use the known vulnerabilities within a system or software, and they will propagate themselves throughout your system as they're programmed to. So they'll launch and slowly disrupt more and more systems across your network, slowing everything down. Alright, so that's enough for this first part. I'll catch you in part B. Recharge your coffee, because you'll need it. I'll catch you in part B.